Illinois, Congresswoman Halvorson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, panel, for being here. This is very informative. I grew up with a self-employed father, and my husband and I are owners of 2 small businesses ourselves. And and I get quite angry at my husband when he doesn't save receipts, and we're constantly scrambling at the last minute, and I try to keep everything in a shoebox, and it doesn't always work. So I know how all of this happens at the last minute. You're trying to keep people like you in business. In fact, I tell everybody, become a CPA, because there's always going to be work for you. Not that we want to take business away, but in the economy the way it is, we're trying to simplify things, so some of the things you can do yourself. With talking about the itemization and keeping such records, whether it's about, cell phone or all the different receipts you have to keep, what would you suggest, or if you could elaborate, we may have touched on it a little bit, but how would you suggest we do things differently with regards to keeping receipts, or how to report things to make it easier on the business owner because of all the hours and hours we have to keep all the records straight? So I don't know if anybody wants to specifically elaborate on that.
Well, again, I think the prototype is there. I think there are standard amounts that the IRS uses for a lot of things. There are standard deductions. We hope there's a standard home office deduction this term. There are per diem rates for travel. There's per diem rates for meals. It costs you a different amount to eat lunch in New York than it does in Sheboygan. So the per diem rate in Sheboygan is lower than the per diem rate in New York. So I think there are lots of opportunities, again, based on the math, scoring methods to determine how much a cell phone should cost in a certain area, allocate what your expected business percentage is. I think a standard amount for a lot of deductions, it could be an option for simplification. And all of those things would alleviate record keeping.
Great, great.
I think you just have to look, too, at what the true impacts are on the tax code. The tax code can never collect every last dollar, and sometimes the complexity adds far more impact than the amount of revenue that's generated from it. On cell phones and computers, for example, there really is no marginal cost to the personal use of those cell phones. Plans now are unlimited. The cost of cell phones is inexpensive. The code just needs to be updated and put thresholds that are reasonably high on all of those items. And if someone's buying a $50,000 computer, perhaps you would require them to keep records on it, but certainly not with the kinds of computers and the kinds of equipment used by most small businesses. So setting lots of safe harbor thresholds that below which you simply don't need to keep records would be a good approach.
The only other thing I want to touch on is I heard many times someone bringing up the difference between an employee and an independent contractor. When I was a state legislator, I had a bill that made it specific what an independent contractor was versus an employee. And we brought along a lot of businesses kicking and screaming. They were very angry with me. But in the end, I think people found out that I did not try to change anything. I did not try to make someone who was an independent contractor into an employee. And so it has really worked out. We've got step by step. And so if there's anything I could do to help, maybe that's something we need to look at. And it is written into the Illinois tax code, and it's really specifically stated what, if you follow these steps, you're automatically an independent contractor. It didn't hurt anybody. It specifically told you who was who.
I've worked with IRS and Treasury on that for probably 10 years, and I think the IRS is doing a good job now with their online determinator. Some of that could be further clarified, but it's always going to be an issue that's complicated. But I think the Congress and the IRS have done a good job of trying to clean up that issue.
But thank you all again for being here.
Thank you.